Imagine a man who spent his entire life chasing truth in a world built on illusion. A man born in the chaos of Los Angeles, raised between art and poverty, who would become one of the last true movie stars, and yet never satisfied. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just an actor. He's a phenomenon, a shapeshifter who reinvented himself time and time again, defying the system that tried to define him. From a rebellious kid on the streets of Hollywood to the face of global fame after Titanic, from the chaos of youth to the controlled madness of The Revenant, DiCaprio's life is a study in obsession with art, with truth, with the planet itself. He's been called a prodigy, a perfectionist, a visionary, even a hypocrite. But one thing he has never been is ordinary. This is not just a story about fame or fortune. It's the story of a boy who became the conscience of Hollywood. This is the story of Leonardo DiCaprio, the man who refused to fade. Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio was born on November 11, 1974, in Los Angeles, California, a city that promised dreams but often delivered heartbreak. His father, George DiCaprio, was an underground comic artist and distributor. His mother, Irmelin, was a German-born legal secretary who worked tirelessly to keep the family afloat after the couple divorced when Leo was just a year old. His name came from art, quite literally. His mother was standing in front of a Leonardo da Vinci painting at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence when she first felt him kick. She took it as a sign, but the world Leo entered was far from the beauty of Renaissance art. His early years were spent in gritty neighborhoods of East Hollywood and Echo Park, surrounded by drug dealers, poverty, and the rough edges of 1980s Los Angeles. "I saw things kids shouldn't see," he once said. "It made me realize early that I wanted something else." His mother shielded him as best she could, encouraging books, imagination, and creativity. Every day she'd drive him across town to better schools, pushing him to believe there was a world beyond his block. Those car rides, hours stuck in L.A. traffic, became their classroom. She'd tell him stories about Germany, about art, about humanity. "My mother," DiCaprio said later, "was the biggest reason I became who I am." Leo's father, meanwhile, introduced him to the underground world of art, poetry, and counterculture. Their apartment walls were covered in psychedelic posters and vinyls. His childhood was a strange blend of intellect and chaos, poverty and inspiration. At age 5, Leo saw Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, both directed by Martin Scorsese, on TV. He didn't understand them, but something inside him clicked. He wanted that, not fame, not money, but the truth, the raw power of emotion that great movies could carry. The road from the East Hollywood streets to stardom was not a fairy tale. As a child actor, Leo faced rejection after rejection. Too intense, too weird, too old-looking for his age. Casting directors didn't know what to make of him. He got his start in commercials and low-budget TV shows, Romper Room, Parenthood, Growing Pains. Each small role was a battle for attention in an industry that chewed up young talent. But even in those early appearances, something about him stood out. He didn't perform. He felt. By 14, he'd been rejected over 100 times. Most kids would have quit. Leo didn't. He'd already made a promise to himself, "If I ever make it, I'll never waste it." His first breakthrough came in 1991, when he appeared opposite Robert De Niro in This Boy's Life. The film was dark, gritty, and emotionally brutal. a perfect training ground for a young actor desperate to prove himself. De Niro, who rarely gave compliments, later said, "He's got it." That spark, that thing you can't teach. The following year, What's Eating Gilbert Grape changed everything. Playing Arnie Grape, a mentally challenged teenager, Leo delivered a performance so real, so heartbreakingly human, that audiences couldn't believe he wasn't actually disabled. He was only 19, and he earned his first Academy Award nomination. But the sudden spotlight came with a cost. Hollywood loves to build young stars, but it loves to break them even faster. Offers poured in, teen dramas, love stories, quick fame. Leo turned most of them down. He wasn't interested in being a heartthrob. He wanted to be an artist. And yet, fate had other plans. In 1996, Leonardo DiCaprio was already a respected young actor. But then James Cameron called. The project was insane, a $200 million epic about a doomed ship, a tragic love story, and a director with a reputation for pushing everyone to their limits. Leo didn't want to do it. "I thought it was going to be a cliché romance," he later admitted, but Cameron convinced him. And opposite a then unknown Kate Winslet, something magical happened. When Titanic hit theaters in December 1997, it didn't just break box office records, it shattered them. It became a global phenomenon, a cultural earthquake. And DiCaprio? He became the face of an entire generation. Teenagers screamed his name. Paparazzi followed him everywhere. Leo Mania was born. But behind the fame, DiCaprio was uneasy. "It felt like I was trapped in someone else's dream," he said. He hated the attention, the magazines, the gossip. He didn't want to be the pretty boy from Titanic. He wanted to disappear again, into the craft. He refused dozens of big money offers, turned down sequels, chose art over comfort. "After Titanic, I had two choices," he said. "I could chase fame or chase truth." It was one of the most important decisions of his career because from that moment on, Leonardo DiCaprio stopped being a star. He became a force. The early 2000s were DiCaprio's rebellion years. While the media obsessed over his private life, he went underground, working only on projects that challenged him. He starred in The Beach, 2000, a dark look at disillusioned youth. The movie wasn't loved by critics, but it marked the start of something new, a willingness to explore flawed, uncomfortable characters. Then came Gangs of New York, 2002, his first collaboration with Martin Scorsese, a partnership that would redefine modern cinema. DiCaprio trained for months in accents, mannerisms, and 19th century fighting styles. He was no longer acting. He was transforming. He followed it with Catch Me If You Can, 2002, where he played con artist Frank Abagnale Jr. opposite Tom Hanks. The role let him blend charm with melancholy, and audiences finally saw the depth of his range. But the real turning point came with The Aviator, 2004, where he played Howard Hughes, a brilliant man consumed by paranoia. The performance was exhausting, even dangerous. Leo suffered panic attacks while filming. "It was like staring into my own fears," he said. The film earned him another Oscar nomination and something more valuable, respect. No longer the teenage idol from Titanic, he had become one of the most serious and committed actors of his generation. In the years that followed, DiCaprio used his fame like a weapon, to choose daring directors, to fund risky scripts, and to tell stories that Hollywood was too afraid to touch. He was chasing something invisible, Not awards, not power, but the feeling of truth that had haunted him since childhood. When Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese found each other, it was like two restless spirits colliding. The veteran director, known for Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Raging Bull, saw in Leo the same hunger he'd seen in De Niro decades earlier. Their partnership began with Gangs of New York and blossomed into one of the most successful actor-director duos in film history. Together, they created modern classics: The Aviator, 2004, The Departed, 2006, Shutter Island, 2010, The Wolf of Wall Street, 2013, and later, Killers of the Flower Moon, 2023. Scorsese pushed DiCaprio harder than anyone ever had. He demanded honesty, vulnerability, danger. "Marty doesn't let you fake it," Leo said. "He digs until you bleed truth." In The Departed, Leo portrayed a man living under constant fear, torn between duty and survival. His anxiety in the role was so real that he needed therapy afterward to decompress. "I lived with that tension for months," he said. Then came The Wolf of Wall Street, a manic, electrifying portrait of excess. DiCaprio spent years fighting to get it made. "It wasn't a glorification," he explained. "It was a mirror, a warning." The film became a sensation, and DiCaprio's fearless, unhinged performance as Jordan Belfort was hailed as one of his greatest ever. Behind the scenes, their relationship became almost familial. Scorsese called him a muse, a brother, a warrior. And Leo, in turn, often said, "Everything I know about cinema, I learned from Marty." Through Scorsese, DiCaprio found what he'd always sought: a mentor who understood his obsession with authenticity. Their collaborations redefined both of their legacies. Scorsese gained his new De Niro, and DiCaprio finally became timeless. By 2015, Leonardo DiCaprio had lived 1,000 lives on screen. The boy who froze in Titanic, the con man in Catch Me If You Can, the Wolf of Wall Street. But The Revenant was different. It wasn't about charm, beauty, or cleverness. It was about endurance, about how much of yourself you're willing to lose for truth. Alejandro Iñárritu's vision was merciless. They filmed in freezing wilderness with natural light, no comfort, no safety nets. DiCaprio slept in animal carcasses, crawled through ice, and ate raw liver. It wasn't acting anymore. It was survival. When he finally won his first Oscar, the world celebrated the performance. But Leo used that moment to talk not about Hollywood, but about the planet, about melting ice caps, burning forests, and the fragile beauty we were destroying. That speech wasn't spontaneous. It was a declaration. He had already founded the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, funding hundreds of projects to protect wildlife and ecosystems. His documentaries, Before the Flood, Ice on Fire, The 11th Hour, became global wake-up calls. To many, it was a surprise. To him, it was destiny. "Fame is just energy," he said. "You can waste it on yourself, or you can use it to change something." And that's when the movie star turned into a messenger. The artist who didn't just play heroes but tried to live like one. For all his global fame, Leonardo DiCaprio remains one of the most private men in Hollywood. He doesn't use social media. He avoids interviews. He rarely lets people inside his world. To some, he's detached. To others, he's one of the last true movie stars, mysterious, grounded, unreachable. He once said, "The less they know about me, the more they believe what I play." When he's not filming, he disappears. No paparazzi shots of drunken nights or scandals, just Leonardo on a boat with friends, reading environmental reports. collecting art, or quietly studying scripts. His circle is small. Tobey Maguire, Scorsese, a few lifelong friends. He's often described as both playful and distant. He can joke, laugh, charm, but behind that, you sense the observer, a man watching the world, searching for meaning. His relationships, from supermodels to co-stars, became tabloid legends, but Leo himself never explained, never justified. He doesn't need to. He's built a wall between his art and his life, and behind that wall lives the real Leonardo, the one who believes that truth belongs to the screen, not the spotlight. Every performance he gives feels like a confession he'll never make in real life. And maybe that's his genius, using fiction to reveal more truth than any reality show ever could. Leonardo DiCaprio's story isn't just about success. It's about evolution. He started as a kid from East Los Angeles, dreaming of escaping poverty. He became one of the world's biggest stars, and yet he's still restless, still searching. He never took the easy path. He turned down dozens of blockbusters to work with the greatest directors, Scorsese, Nolan, Tarantino. He transformed fame into fuel, comfort into conscience. And through it all, he's remained authentic, flawed, driven, endlessly curious. His philosophy is simple. Truth costs pain. On set, he'll do a scene 50 times if it doesn't feel right. He'll study every word, every gesture, every silence until it's alive. Because for Leonardo, art isn't imitation, it's transformation. He once said, "We all chase something, fame, love, peace. But what matters is the chase itself." That's the essence of Leonardo DiCaprio, a man who built his career not on perfection, but on pursuit. A seeker, a rebel, a believer that film can still change the world. And maybe that's why, decades from now, when people talk about this era of cinema, they won't just remember Titanic, Inception, or The Revenant. They'll remember the man who refused to fade into comfort, the one who kept chasing truth, long after the camera stopped rolling. And that's Leonardo DiCaprio. Not just a legend of cinema, but a reminder that greatness isn't born from fame, wealth, or luck. It's built from hunger. The hunger to grow, to search, to never stop asking what more you can give to the world. You've just listened to another story from StoryVault, a place where lives, legends, and moments are kept alive. If this journey spoke to you, if it made you think, smile, or see the world a little differently, do me a favor. Tap that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because here at StoryVault, there's always another story waiting to be told. And I'd love to share it with you. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive. And I'll see you in the next story.